I still say that's the best beat. KV, that's the best beat.
I'm starting to think you had something to do with that beat. That's why you like it so much.
No, Kendall, who does a lot of our graphics,
yes,
came up with the beat. I don't know where he got it from. Hopefully,
it's nice.
Hopefully he didn't steal it from someone. Okay, good. I don't know if he's in the band or what.
Nice.
Hey, welcome back to the show this week. Joining us, KV, we got a very, very supreme guest. She is awesome.
I don't know if I like the word supreme.
She is the cream of the crop.
Notch, the cream of the crop.
She's the cream of the crop. Listen.
She is the all, the be all, will be all for past, future, and present.
Yep,
Come on now.
All of that. and here's the thing. This is where I first talked to her on Twitter. We were DM back and forth because I thought Joe Johnson was a premier player because he's from Arkansas.
My classmate, by the way. Yes, he is.
Instead of Derek Fisher, who was also from Arkansas, but we won't talk about that. And so she had her thoughts on Joe, and I had my thoughts on Joe.
Yes.
Hey, Jemele Hill, welcome to the show.
Welcome.
Thanks for having me. And then why are you trying to make it sound like I'm shading Joe?
Well, I don't want to sound like you shading Joe. We were talking about whether Joe was a number one player.
Right. And I think that's what it was.
Yeah. Whether or not he was.
He definitely. I mean, he was a good closer, and in some respects, he definitely has had or did have a underrated career. But it just other than his ability in certain moments to be very clutch, I just didn't have him on the same pedestal you necessarily did. But I wasn't saying he was like trash.
We're a little biased.
Well, we're a little biased. He's from Arkansas.
Yeah.
We're a little biased. You yourself, Michigan State, because you went to. See, you're from Detroit. So here's the thing. I got family in Detroit, and the one question I always ask: if you're in Alabama, it's either Alabama or Auburn. You're in Florida, UF, Miami, Florida State. If you're in Michigan, Michigan or Michigan State, and I just got to know, because everybody that I talked to was Michigan. So I'm trying to figure out why you chose Michigan State. And I hear it's like a technical college.
What?
I heard it was like a.
Did you basically say I'm going to like University of Phoenix?
No.
So who's being shady now?
No, it wasn't like that. It wasn't like. I'm just telling you what the fan was saying.
Insult my university that way?
No, just
like
joking.
I'm out here going to ITT or something.
No.
Like what? No, it is a very intense rivalry, and I'll be completely honest, it's more intense probably on our side than theirs because they consider Ohio State to be their number one rival, which only angers us. And,
really?
People have to understand geography too. Is like University of Michigan, Ann Arbor is about 45 minutes from Detroit. Michigan State is about 2 hours. But as I often say, of those Michigan fans, how many of them actually went to Michigan?
Well, that's true. That's true.
None of them did,
That's true.
or very few of them did.
That's
Unlike when you run into Michigan State fans, they usually went there. And, it's understandable. Look, I was a Michigan fan growing up, and that's because a lot of that had to do with the fact that the Fab Five, they were in college when I was in high school. And so everybody in Detroit was rooting for Michigan. And the proximity, and I think, they have gone through longer pockets of having more sports success in the two major sports in basketball and football, although not basketball in the last. They had some moments, but, I think it's pretty obvious that Michigan State has been the more dominant program in the state for the last 20 years. So it's just, if you're from Detroit, that makes all the sense in the world. But I do think the rise of Michigan State's basketball program has had a lot to do with this being a little bit more even than it was before.
Gotcha. And speaking of that, we'll start with the State of the Spartans address, Dantonio, that is, calling it quits. You got any thoughts on Dantonio getting off the sidelines?
It was time, and I know it was surprising. I think only the timing is surprising. Not either. I think they were probably headed for a really ugly divorce. I don't think Michigan State, given the fact that he's the most successful football coach that they've had, other than Duffy Daugherty, who won a bunch of national championships when Bubba Smith went there back in the mid-'60s, where Michigan State was really quite a dominant program. He's the most successful coach they've had in the modern day. And the run that he went on for about 4 or 5 years is the most impressive that they've had. And so the problem was the decline after the run. He wasn't able to sustain the success. And it didn't have anything to do with Jim Harbaugh. It's just, when you don't have a quarterback, because we went through a period where it was, Brian Hoyer, who is still in the NFL, Kirk Cousins, obviously an NFL starter. And then you had Connor Cook, who was a second-round draft pick, I believe. So when you have that success at quarterback and then suddenly it's none, that is going to be a real factor in why your program declines. So it was that. It was, recruiting wasn't going as well. I just think that it was probably headed somewhere ugly. But hey, he pulled a finesse move. He waited till that $4 million kicked in.
Boy, he did pull a finesse move, didn't he?
He waited till that bonus kicked in. It was, and even though it didn't do him any favors that it was the day before signing day, and then he chucked up the deuces, and he'll still have a role in the athletic department, which is going to be befitting for a coach that has had that much success. So I am thankful for what Coach Dantonio did for the university and how he steadied the ship and really proved that it can be an elite program. But I'm also glad that he's gone, because I think it was time for a different voice, different leadership, and a new direction for this program.
Yeah, because at one point they had a really, really defensively, they were probably one of the top teams I can think of at one point, and then it just kind of fell off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it was a lot of drop off, and I think with whoever's in there next, that while I wouldn't say that the program is in great shape, I think it would not be a difficult turnaround job.
Yeah. So you got any names in mind for the Michigan State football job?
Well, it's two names I like. And actually another one that just kind of emerged that I actually did not realize he had a Michigan connection. I like Pat Narduzzi, who is the coach of Pittsburgh. And Narduzzi was defensive coordinator during that time. We talked about Michigan State having dominant defenses and dominant defensive players. I think the energy that he brings, he's already obviously very familiar with the culture at Michigan State. Really like him. Do like the suggestions of Luke Fickell, who's at Cincinnati and the head coach there. A lot of people are very high on him, understandably so, with what he's done with that program and, of course, his track record just as a coach, period. Another name I had not considered, and again, it's because I did not know the tie, was Robert Saleh, from the San Francisco 49ers, the defensive coordinator. He's from Dearborn, Michigan, which is right outside Detroit. I had no idea this was the case. And
not to mention he got passed over for some NFL jobs this year.
He did. Now, I don't know about what his appetite is for coaching in college, but I will say, being able to come back to the state that you're from and being a head coach at a university that has a lot of potential and promise, I'm down for, if we could throw a dart and land on any of those three, I'd be happy. But, I think there's some good options out there for Michigan State.
Okay. So moving along to basketball now, I know that, listen, Cassius Winston, I mean, consensus All-American preseason. I get it. 18 and a half points a game. He's not sexy to me. He's not. He disappears in big moments. This is just from a sports fan.
No, I think we do have to look to some degree at the team around him. It's so funny because I think more so about the opportunities that Michigan State has missed more than where the state of the team is right now. And it's a lot of reasons for that. Inconsistency, injury, the fact that in college basketball, nobody seems to want to hold on to be number one in the country.
No one right now.
Yeah, it's been a lot of turnover in that spot. But I look at last year, and I still am not over last year. And, to beat Duke in the semifinal, then lose in the championship game. And this is no shade to Texas Tech, but you can't lose to Texas Tech in the final. Like, losing to Duke, okay, a lot of people lose to Duke. Like, we get it. Like,
right.
And again, I'm sure Texas Tech fans will be mad at me, but that's the best opportunity they've had to win a title since Michigan State won it in 2000 with Mateen Cleaves. And the other team I often think about is the team that got upset by Middle Tennessee State. It's like you can't have that. And the missed opportunity of playing in Detroit a couple years ago and losing in Detroit to a Syracuse team that was terrible. I mean, it's just
garbage.
No other way to put garbage.
They were garbage.
At least I can see the reasons why this team is struggling. Obviously, there's been a lot on Cassius Winston this year. I'm not even talking about basketball with his brother's suicide. And, he's had, I can only imagine from an emotional standpoint what he's been through this season. it was a shame to me that after last season and the success to see, Nick Ward turn pro. I didn't even understand that. They should have had a stronger team coming into the season. Unfortunately, again, there were some injuries. So I get why they're struggling. He's still a great player. I agree with you. I think when we think about NBA potential, he's not somebody that jumps off the page. But I look at what he has. I always feel like to make the NBA, you got to have one great skill, whether it be athleticism, nobody's ever
jump
like
shot.
it's got to be something. Jumps. It's got to be something. I think with him, look at how he finishes around the basket. I think he's one of the best finishers with either hand in college basketball. He's very creative, and I think that may be his entry point. No, he's not the fastest guy. He doesn't have like the end-to-end speed of John Wall or some of the athletic attributes that I think you're used to seeing, but he understands the game, knows it, smart player, better defensively than I think people give him credit for. And if you look at the players Michigan State has put into the league, by and large, they have a very good track record of just sticking in the league a long time because fundamentally they're so sound coming from a coach like Tom Izzo.
Speaking of Izzo, every year when I do my NCAA bracket, which we're about to do, I always make sure to put – because to me, when it comes down to picking teams, I never look at the seedings, but when it's a close game, I always look at who has the best coach. And Izzo's good for a Final Four at least every other year. But lately, come on now, Izzo's been coming up short, and then he's got the sanctions they're talking about. I mean, is it time for Izzo? Is it time for Izzo to go?
You're just trying to make sure I can't ever go back to Detroit.
No, I'm just saying.
My family still lives in Detroit. Mark, I just want you to know that.
I know. I got family there, too. I like Detroit.
Right. Well, I want to be able to see them without needing security.
Oh, okay. All right. I got you.
No, it's not time for Tom Izzo to go. The game has not passed him by. We're not seeing the withering decline because recruiting is still going pretty great. He has some young players who have a lot of good potential, and I'm really excited about them. And, again, as I said, like they make the championship just last year. They go to the championship. It felt like a wasted opportunity more than a great season. Yeah. But even that I consider to be a huge compliment to him because there was a time where, Izzo would have got a parade just for getting there. Yeah. And the expectations, they've risen so much that, yes, when we are in the tournament, we expect to win it all. Yeah. And I think that has a testament to the standard that he's created at the university. This year has been more up and down. I do think he's been snake bitten a little bit, more so. I can't say that I've watched any game and said like, oh, they're poorly coached, they're not ready, that kind of thing. Again, when your point guard, who was consensus, best player in the Big Ten and one of the best players in the country, when he suffers the kind of emotional tragedy that he does, that's like something you can't really anticipate as a coach and how that will have a ripple effect on the rest of the team. I'm not saying that that's the total reason for why that there has been such a lack of consistency. I think, some of it too is that the team is a little younger than the team I think he thought he was starting the season with. Yeah.
Okay.
Well, I know you're doing some TV, and I think KV wants to talk about.
Yeah, I'm gonna switch gears because I do want her to be able to go home at some point, Mark. So
Thank you.
Switch gears just a little bit.
Yes.
But
look out for me, black woman.
Yes, trying to help you out. So I know you've been on Bravo's Below Deck, and I think we just returned back. Is that right?
Well, not just returned. We actually the episodes aired recently,
right.
And we actually went. In March of 2019 is when we took the trip to Thailand.
Okay. All right. And there was a lot around that. How's Kate? Are y'all better?
Oh, Kate and I we were good by the time I left.
Okay.
And it was interesting because I knew as soon as I said that about it, and I guess for those who are not familiar with the show Below Deck, it's a Bravo reality series. The whole point of the show is that you're on this super yacht, on a mega yacht, a very luxury, yacht. And really the whole series is kind of about the staff that services the yacht, their interaction with, clients such as myself and guests. And, but really it's kind of about their drama more so than the guest drama and, or any storylines created around the guest. And so Kate is an anti-hero, I think, to some people, is that, she has her moments where she can be a little difficult. And so, it's just that when we got there on the yacht, it's me and my girls. This was like a pre-bachelorette party for me, because the one I had with a much larger group, that took place in September of that year. And so everybody else in the crew was so nice. Like, and a few of them recognized me from ESPN, so they wanted to talk sports, and like the energy was just like really, really good. And then she came in, and it was like not good. And so I think it wasn't that she had bad energy; it's just that hers just didn't match everybody else's. And so it looked like to us, and not to all of us. It was like me and my girl Suzette, who was also there, who was next to me when I asked her if we were getting on her nerves. Yeah, she just seemed like she had an attitude, and we just kind of picked up on it, or a couple of us did. And I said something to her like, is everything good? Are we getting on your nerves? Like, we had literally just got there. I mean, we hadn't been there that long. And I knew as soon as I said it, I was like, I done gave her some ammunition, man. She about to go back when they do these, one-on-one confessionals or whatever. She is going to kill me.
And you should have saw it, Mark, because she was like, a B recognizes a B. It's all good.
So
this is that. I was whoa.
That was the part I was a little shocked at. Like, some of the things she called me, no one's ever called me that.
Wow.
Ever. I mean, or the people that have called me that have been people, some Trump supporters have called me that, but, I kind of expect that out of them.
Right.
But I just, in real life, never had nobody that's ever called me that. And so I was a little taken aback. Her and I had essentially made up, if you will, before that charter was over, and nobody that ever knows me would ever describe me as a mean girl. So it was kind of interesting to see that characterization. My mother absolutely did not appreciate it.
Oh,
I did. Yeah, I did watch the post show, Watch What Happens Live after our episode ran, and my mother called into the show.
Whoa.
And she said, don't nobody call my child, my baby, that on national television.
See, Mark, that's why she has to be able to go home.
I got you. Hey, listen,
she gotta have,
I understand.
Mama has to have her back.
Mama has to have my back. But Kate and I, it was funny, before I did the Watch What Happens Live, Kate and I were texting that morning because we were just like, I was just like, hey, just wanted to let you know, I had a great time. Like, I mean, she'd already known this because she had talked to some of the one of my other friends who was in the group. They had been talking like on a somewhat consistent basis. And so she had told us when we left that we were the best charter guests that they had all season. So it just kind of like, we started at one place, we got to another place. Of course, it's the drama of what happened during our trip.
Right.
And so they really played up to that. But there was a lot that was obviously missing that kind of took place in between.
See, I'm wondering how much of those, I thought those reality shows were scripted. How much of that was scripted? Did they,
that's what I wanted to know. And she just said a lot is missing. So
no, nothing is scripted, but you have to realize that they take all the footage, and the job of the producers is to create an episode.
Right.
And so they take everything. It's kind of like when you do an interview with somebody, you take the whole interview and then you craft it into what's the best parts. Now, from a context standpoint, there's going to be some things that are missing that might shed more light on it or might give you more insight. But, they only have an hour to do this. And so what came out of all the things that they filmed of us doing was my little quote confrontation with Kate and the infamous cake. So those were the two things that kind of came out of our episode. But look, I wasn't complaining about it because
you got a free trip.
It
wasn't free.
Oh.
Yes,
look, we both owe.
That's a luxury yacht.
Yeah.
You get it at a discounted price. But no, we paid. And that at the end of the trip, you give the staff a trip. So that 20 grand we gave them was really our 20 grand. So
wow.
That's just like, that's how it goes. You just get it at a rate that's not like, if we did that on our own, absent of the show, it would have been 5 times more. But you're still paying or whatever. But no, I mean, I think that it's not fake. It's just that like they just are trying to create an episode. And look, I wasn't complaining because I'm glad of the things that didn't make the air. I'm more thought about that stuff. I'm glad of the stuff that didn't make it, so I'm good.
well, speaking of that, recently, man, your girl Gayle King caught she caught the business. She took some L's about this whole Kobe interview because now according to her, she was saying that look, they just took a clip, and we know you've been television. I do too. They will take a clip. We will get a clip of it, but not like they for them not to address it or at least put a little bit of everything in that clip. They just took the piece about Kobe's death and the situation in Colorado where he got in trouble and just ran with it. So you got any thoughts on that?
So this has been, obviously the reaction and the response and just the mourning. I mean, I live in Los Angeles, and I can tell you, this city is heartbroken. Like, I mean, it's not just like, I know he had fans worldwide, but this city in particular, what he meant here, to have spent his whole career here, for this city to see him grow up in front of them, it's been very hard for people. And I would say personally, as somebody who got a chance to interview him and know him a little bit and build a rapport with him, that I have never reacted to a death of a celebrity or a sports figure the way that I reacted to his death. I mean, I cried for real.
Yeah.
And
real tears.
Real tears. You know, it was devastating thinking about not just what he meant to the city, but just what he's leaving behind. I mean, his family, and to die with his daughter, it was a lot. It's an emotional time. A lot of people's emotions are raw. That being said, it's an uncomfortable part of the job. But when you're in the position where you have to consider somebody's legacy, you do have to consider their whole legacy and their whole story. And there are going to be fans of his, people who support him, that never want Colorado mentioned.
Never.
And that's not really an accurate picture. It did actually, not, the crime that he's accused of itself, but the trial actually happened. Yeah. And thinking about how we look at those things now and the fact that he was playing still while also making court appearances for a rape trial, like that is just, we all saw that happen in real time. And that a lot of people after that trial, Kobe has always been a polarizing player, absent of that, because there are a lot of people who were turned off by the fact that they felt like he was imitating Michael Jordan, and it was basketball fans that didn't like his boldness and his cockiness. So he already had
that
kind of
to deal with.
He had that part to deal with. But then after that happened, to pretend as if there was not this huge stretch of time where people just did not mess with him at all, and the endorsements he lost, like that happened. That's a part of his personal history. And even the people who didn't believe he did it, but yet he still admitted he cheated on his wife, at the very least, they didn't deal with him because of that. Yeah. So that is a part of it. Now, I think we can debate about whether or not when is an appropriate time to do it. It is very true. I think the people that have brought this up, and it's true and it's fair, is that there has been a considerable amount of time for him to have answered to those, which he has done.
17 years.
Yeah, which he has done within the scope that he could, given the fact that he did settle out of court with the young lady who was involved, and there was only so much he could talk about anyway. Mm-hmm. But I think when people see the clip, and I would like to see the full interview before I make a complete judgment, is that I like to see how, I understand the context. Lisa Leslie is somebody who knows Kobe, and everybody knows, because of his daughter and his general love of the game, he had a very, he was one of the biggest supporters of the WNBA, biggest supporter of female athletes, women's basketball players in particular. I think it's fair to ask a woman that knew him and a woman that's associated with the league and one of the greatest players ever, hey, was it ever for you a challenge, or, how do you reconcile the fact that there are a lot of women out there who do not like him and who still associate him with being somebody who was once accused of rape? I think that's actually a fair question to ask. But it's the belaboring. That's the part that I think people are really responding to.
And it's the timing to me. Yeah. I get it. She put.
But the thing is, like, if we're now in the mode where we're discussing his legacy and his whole life, because we're discussing his whole life because he's not here. When is that time? Well, because I'm gonna tell you, people would still react to like this 3 months from now. Like, it really wouldn't matter.
I got that part. I think my thing is, in the interview, Gail, I don't know how much control she had over what clip could be released, but if it was me, if I was in there with that producer, oh, no, you won't show this part. We're going to show another clip.
I totally agree with you. And, that to me was a mistake. Like, I don't know if she got a chance to see what they were going to put out, or maybe she didn't think it would kind of hit people the way that it did. But when you're talking about something that explosive, you need to allow people to get the full context of why you're asking, what was said before, after, all around it. I mean, in my podcast, we try to put out teaser clips. Like everybody does it. Like that's not uncommon at all. And I remember I had Karuchi. I did a sit down with her, and we were talking about a variety of different topics. And one of the things we talked about is about how, you know, she went through this period where she felt like she kind of didn't fit in because she is a multi-ethnic person. You know, she's Black. You know, I think her father's Vietnamese. Like she's got a lot of stuff going on ethnically. And so how
you got a lot going on.
So she just talked about just what a challenge it was. And there was one quote that jumped out, but I didn't put it out there because it was a 20-second clip, and I knew that some people would take it the wrong way and thinking that she was being critical of her African American heritage, and she wasn't at all. She was just saying something within context. But if you just see that clip, you'll walk away and think, oh, Karuchi don't like being Black, right? So I think there is something to be said for you do have somewhat of a responsibility to protect your guests. You don't have to show favoritism, but at the same time, you kind of want to be fair and make sure nothing they say or nothing you ask is being taken out of context. And now it's created a huge, situation, for her. And a lot of people are questioning her journalistic integrity, her Blackness. She done got pulled an Oprah drug.
Oprah got drugs. Stedman is in it.
I'm just like, man, I know Oprah woke up like, I was at a family barbecue. How did I get drugged into this? Like, I didn't even interview anybody. And all of a sudden, I'm getting drugged right along with it. But I think at the very least that we all need to see the full interview before making a judgment, which is asking a lot because that's just not how our media cycle works, unfortunately.
Right.
So people are going to have their opinions already.
And we're going to stay with, just controversial people. Next, of course, my favorite, which I thought was a good thing, but of course, I think this is kind of your introduction into meeting 45. Colin Kaepernick. Colin Kaepernick. Very controversial. First of all, are you going to interview? I mean, would you interview him for your podcast?
Who? Donald Trump?
Colin Kaepernick.
Colin Kaepernick.
Oh, I thought you were saying.
Well, we're gonna get to Trump. Don't worry, we'll get to Trump. I want to start with Colin Kaepernick first.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, look, Colin and his people know that door is wide open.
Why is he so quiet though? Why is he so quiet about it? He didn't speak out. He didn't do interviews. Why is he so quiet?
I think for a time, because the grievance case was still active against the NFL, I think that had a lot to do with why he was silent, which makes sense. Yeah. You don't want to say anything in the media that will undermine the case that you're trying to bring against the NFL. So I get it. I wonder now, because there have been rumors that Colin is working on the book, and I wonder now if this is part of the strategy. I don't agree with it. I think at this point he probably should speak. And I don't want to come off, sounding arrogant, telling somebody when they should speak, but I just think it's kind of time now, and that people, I think they want to know a lot of things about what this experience has been like, how he's resigned, to what has happened to his career. Like, there's a ton of questions you can ask Colin Kaepernick. So I think it's kind of time. And, I hope he does speak soon. I hope we don't go through 2020 without him saying something, because I think it's more than time for him to kind of address, and to some degree to a large degree to inspire. I mean, there's been a lot of people who have taken up the same causes he's believed in because they were inspired by him. And I think they deserve to hear something from someone who inspired them to try to make this world a better place and to try to make an imprint in social justice issues.
And freakishly, his shoes, the Air Force Ones, sold out in 5-10 minutes?
5-10 minutes. Yeah. A matter of minutes.
I was lucky. I got a.
You got a pair?
You got a pair.
I did because I didn't stand in line.
So now I'm upset. So if there's any of Colin's people out there, KV and I need a pair.
Size 12. Colin's people did. They sent me a pair, so I was lucky. Man. And I don't even know what to do with these shoes. It's like, should I wear them or should I put them in a glass case? Like,
I would be the one that would put them in a glass case. You would wear them? I would
wear them. Yeah, because at some point they're gonna come back out, and people are gonna buy them normal.
Yeah, but it's sort of, you feel like it's kind of history. So it's just like I I don't necessarily feel like I should wear them. I've worn them once, and then even that just gave me anxiety. I was like, no, I'm gonna just put these up for now. But you bring up something that I've always said has been lost and hasn't been, properly highlighted. There was a lot of conversation, a lot of angst, and frankly, a lot of owners and leaning on this to basically justify their own cowardice. Is that this idea that Colin Kaepernick is bad for business, and Colin Kaepernick is very good for business.
Definitely good for business.
Yeah. Definitely good for business, which is why Nike signed him, and or I should say re-signed him or upped his deal. Is his merchandise, period, they cannot keep on the shelves. Like as soon as he comes out with something, people are so ready to support it. And even before Nike waged this new campaign, his jersey
was one of the top selling jerseys.
It was one of the top selling jerseys. So there's, for as many people who say they can't stand Colin Kaepernick, there's a ton of people that support him. Like all them people burning them, Mall Walker 11 Nikes that they were trying to do, and
that's
them,
crazy.
Pick up the kids from school 8s and all that. All the people that burn those, there were 3 times as many people who bought more Nikes because Nike was supporting Colin Kaepernick.
All right, and so from Colin Kaepernick, they kind of got everybody talking, and I think you, of course, spoke out on ESPN about 45, which 45 started. I think 45 changed the narrative about the whole kneeling and the whole protest. I mean, because when I think about it, I mean, isn't that how it's been done over the years? I mean, somebody didn't want to get up on the bus, so we protest.
Right.
People couldn't sit and eat in a restaurant, so we protest. So here's another situation where we protest, and this time the narrative is changed, and there's so much anger and animosity. And what happens from that is journalists, as well as athletes like yourself and LeBron, speak out against the president, and
it's a problem.
Other journalists have a problem with it.
Yep.
Well, even because of course, as Colin, his personal protest gained momentum and became kind of a movement. Just for kind of curiosity and my own edification, I went back and looked at some of the dynamics of, say, the Montgomery bus boycott, and even then, and this is where whenever people say that,
disrespectful
about repeating history, they said the same things then. I mean, the majority of people were against Martin Luther King Jr. at the time. When he died, he was one of the most disliked people in America. Hard to believe, but it's true. And there were even some Black folks that thought that too. Thought it was stirring the pot, making life for them uncomfortable. We've seen before some of the things Malcolm X has said about him. And even though they came to a greater understanding kind of before Malcolm was assassinated, the reality is that these are some of the same narratives, the same conversations were taking place then as they are now. And I find that it is quite baffling to me that we would be so willing to repeat the same mistake. And the nature of the protest was hijacked by conservatives who started making it about the flag and disrespecting the military and all these other things, even though Colin, as he was protesting, laid out all the reasons he was doing it. And even more so, he let people know that the reason he took a knee as opposed to sitting was to actually show respect, because a former veteran, Nate Boyer, also a former NFL player, told him it was more respectful to take a knee because that's what you do for fallen soldiers. And so once conservatives were able to hijack this, and once Donald Trump was able to use Colin Kaepernick to gain political points and favor, and
because he was speaking to his base.
Well, he wasn't just speaking to his base, and that's why Colin Kaepernick was such a win for him, because there are very few things that come out of that man's mouth that people universally agree on him. And one of the things where he had actual majority support is about what he said about Colin Kaepernick. And that's why he told Jerry Jones that they essentially would be aiding and boosting and supporting his campaign if they played Colin Kaepernick. And the moment that Donald Trump started making Colin Kaepernick an enemy of the state,
the villain,
his career was over. And there was no tryout that was going to undo that. No amount of Jay-Z at any table was going to undo that. It was already done.
And you've expressed your discontent for 45 yourself. You don't hide it.
It's a nice word.
No, because I'm also of the opinion that if you're a journalist and you cannot play this game by sugarcoating things, and it's why I am, my teeth kind of grit a little bit when the president outright lies and people call it a falsehood or misleading. Like, no, he lied. It's okay to say it.
Yeah.
Once we lose that ability to do that, that was kind of the whole reason that most of us got into journalism, is that you were supposed to hold the people in power accountable. And if that relationship changes, then we just become a PR wing for nonsense.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, the thing, the distinction I always make with people who have been critical of the platform I was on when I said it, because I did not say this on SportsCenter. Okay, I've told many people this. It wasn't like you tuned in at 6:01 and I was like, by the way, y'all, the president's a racist. Like, that is not what happened. What happened was I was just in a back and forth with a Twitter user and who was trying to still give Donald Trump the benefit of the doubt. This was after Charlottesville, where he referred to neo-Nazis and white supremacists and white nationalists as very fine people, where he struggled to take any kind of definitive stance against very obvious racism in an American city being under attack by people who should be considered domestic terrorists. And just between that and all the things that he has said about people of color and trying to, make them even more marginalized and make us matter even less than we already do in the scope of, American life, it seemed very obvious what the game plan was. And he's only interested in governing some of us, not all of us. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't actually think what I said was really that controversial, nor did I think it would create any of the conversation and any of the backlash that it did, just because I thought everybody knew it. I was like, oh, I didn't know I broke some news for some people.
You were like, y'all didn't know that?
Yeah, because
am I the only one to say that?
Am I the only one? Because I think you said it was just like making just a general statement. I thought I was saying water was wet, and everybody knew that and agreed.
Yeah, I did too. I wasn't even. I mean, it's frankly in the scope of my career, it's one of the most unoriginal things I've actually said, because before I said it, the great writer Ta-Nehisi Coates wrote an entire 10,000 word piece about Donald Trump being the most American president, because he was talking about his history of racism and how this is completely in line with some of what we've seen come out of this office and other racist presidents. So it wasn't even my original thought, is that the case had been made. And so now to fast forward and just see, it was interesting to me to see at the presidential debates, the Democratic ones, how it's just commonplace to call the president a racist.
Wow.
That's where we are.
Yeah. Well, we're going to switch gears a little bit. I know you on a time crunch, and so KV going to lighten it up a little bit. That's what she does.
Yes. Now, normally what we do is ask questions to find out what type of person you really, really are, okay?
Okay.
So sometimes I'll do that with food. Be like, one's got to go. Are you with this person or that person? But since you are the all-be-all sports lady, we're going to give you some quick hits. How about that? And see exactly who you want. Going NBA for a minute. So the timer is now on. Jordan or Kobe?
Come on, answer this one right. Answer this one right now. Jordan.
Yes, Jordan.
Yes,
Jordan.
Right.
I have written the opposite, though. I've written that before, but I think especially, now that there's this new conversation of LeBron or Kobe, LeBron or Jordan, that it's hard for me not to go with Michael Jordan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, even kind of staying with what you just said, Kobe or LeBron?
Man.
Come on now. Come on. This isn't even a question. This isn't even a question. No.
He called, I'm away. Yeah, go ahead, because I know what
first
you're about to say.
First of all, I think the whole topic of LeBron and Jordan is all subjective. Mm-hmm. First of all, I would never compare LeBron to Michael Jordan, because you didn't ask both of them to do the same thing. Michael Jordan wasn't asked to facilitate the ball. But if I was to compare LeBron, I'd compare him to a Scottie or to a Magic. Both of them, all of them 6'9", 6'10" range. Mm-hmm. All of them played 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So to me, it would be those comparisons. And yeah, LeBron's more skilled than the others, and he's more skilled than Michael and Kobe. But who would I want? I'd want the guy that would play your grandmother to 5, not spot her a point, dunk on her, and then throw the ball at her and say next. And that's MJ and Kobe. And LeBron is so I call him LeBron. LeBron is so passive. He's so passive, and every time the game's on the line, he turns the ball over. It's just me.
Okay, so that's your opinion. Now I want to hear her opinion.
He's skilled.
Kobe or LeBron?
Well, I was going to say that some of this, that question, it depends on what type of basketball fan you are, right? It's like, it's almost like asking, what's your type in terms of, who you like to date. Is that there is somebody, you can put 2 fine dudes before me, but it might be one that's just more my type than the other, but it doesn't mean the other dude ain't fine.
All right, that makes sense.
Understood.
That makes sense.
So in terms of who I got, I'm going to answer this question based off who I got more enjoyment out of watching.
Okay.
Both enjoyed them both, but it was Kobe.
Okay.
Because even though I've seen LeBron do some truly superhuman things, look, I'm from Detroit. I'm a Pistons fan. When he dropped that 48 special on us in the playoffs on their last time that we had a championship caliber team, I don't think my soul ever recovered. Okay. So I have seen him do things that are otherworldly, but the scoring tear that Kobe went on a few years ago, where he basically averaged like 50 a month, 50
to none.
It was, I've never seen something like that. Yeah. And he was always doing something that felt like I'd never seen it before. And the scoring, the edge of which he scored, and the anger to some degree, it was just really a treat to watch. So in terms of who I prefer, if you gave me the pick of okay, you can watch all of Kobe's games or all of LeBron's, I'd probably take Kobe's.
Okay.
Boom.
Got one more comparison for you. So, D-Lo or Trae Young? So, D'Angelo Russell or Trae Young?
Oh, it's Trae Young. I mean, I think he's the reincarnation of Steph Curry. Yeah, I mean, yeah. I mean, you want to talk about who has, Steph Curry, the influence and impact he's had on basketball, I think we're greatly underrating because there are things now you see in the game that you never saw until Steph Curry emerged as one of the best players in the league.
The shooting range, if nothing else.
The shooting range. Trae Young is the child of Steph Curry that he didn't know he had. And everything about his game is very Steph Curry-like, except for, I think, as a passer and as a ball handler, he's more dynamic than Steph Curry. Right. Steph Curry got some moves, he got some tricks, but the ball handling that Trae Curry, that should be his name, that Trae Young has, I think makes him such a delight to see. He's another one that you watch and like, oh, I've never seen that before. Right. The things they could do with the ball. So I think he's kind of next man up that, maybe at some point in his career, he may be in that greatest shooter conversation.
Okay. Now stepping over to the NFL. Now we know that NFL players swap jerseys after games, right? So if you could swap mics, because all you need is one mic, right? Okay. So if you could swap mics with one person, who would that be?
That's a good question.
If I could swap mics with one person, it would probably be Oprah. Yeah,
that's a good one.
Okay, that is a
you
good
can't
one.
argue with that.
Yeah, look, I know Gail about to get them both about to change, but I'm just kidding. I kid. But Oprah, she started off as a journalist. I've always considered her to be one of the more dynamic and great interviewers in journalism history, and so. Just who she was as a media personality, it's really remarkable. And the most important thing, I think, that Oprah, why her legacy to me is unquestioned, is that is the quintessential example of betting on yourself. And betting on yourself in a way where you weren't fitting in what somebody else's idea of what it is you should be doing is. She did it truly her own way.
And coming from Mississippi, too.
And coming from the South. And not being from a aesthetic standpoint, what they were going for in television. She really, I think, has just been a remarkable example. While not considered to be a true journalist, just because she was an entertainer and an actor and all those other things. But I think because her roots were very much in journalism, that's a big reason why she was so successful.
All right, Jemele, we know you got some things to do. We appreciate your time. Thank you for coming on here. We appreciate it.
Well, I enjoyed the conversation. Thank you guys for having me.
Joe Johnson is still, to me, my guy.
Look, I love Corliss Williamson. Does that count?
Yeah, you like Corliss? Okay, Corliss is
Yeah,
good. Yeah, we can go with that.
Yeah, we go with that.
Former Piston, man. Come on.
All right, thanks for calling. We'll talk to you later.
Thanks. Have a good one.
Take care.
All right.